No, not this time.
Hi.
If you could do one less, it's a tough question. If you could do one less thing a week, like when you think about, maybe that's not a fair. I'm trying to think how I want to ask the question. Like what's something that you do on a regular basis that you think, does this matter? This is a time waster. This probably might be a lot of things. But like, is there one thing?
I don't know, like, as I think about stuff, like, I thought what you were getting at first was if you could do one less thing a week, of all the things that you do in a week,
Yeah.
what would you eliminate?
Okay.
And just like time wasting bad habits really is what came to mind.
Well, I was thinking like a job thing.
Yeah.
So
I figured that's where you got to.
So I'll tell you
I
mine.
wasn't going to tell him myself, but I just did, I guess.
Like we've done this series, Wife of Christ, the Church at Ephesus, last year, and now we've been talking about like we're going to continue that series, and just like that concept of the wife of Christ, like it just doesn't, with what we're going to do in First and Second Timothy, like it just doesn't.
A little shift.
It just doesn't match up a little bit. So, and this is how I waste. This is one of the ways I waste time is thinking up stuff like this. And so, initially it was going to be the wife of Christ, letters to a pastor, and like just completely meaningless thing of, I think we're just going to call it letters to a pastor, the church at Ephesus. So to kind of continue that church at Ephesus theme, because that's really the bigger picture of the thing.
Yeah.
But just like stuff like that, like trying to be creative and does anybody care, and
yeah, and it's funny in those, like, as this series shifts from
yeah
more of the broad to here's some more narrow letters that he wrote specifically to a couple leaders. Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, for me, I think anytime I spend time and energy in some creative endeavor, I always find myself wondering, like, does this matter to anybody else but me?
Yeah.
I think in, when I guess specifically over this past year, I've decreased, like I haven't been writing near as much as I had in some previous years. And some of that was because I get this feeling like nobody reads this anyway. And so I can back off of spending time doing that and do other stuff. I don't know that hasn't necessarily been a productive shift overall for me this year. But that's one place where I start to feel that sort of, is this really how I should be spending my time?
Yeah.
Or how I want to be spending my
Yeah.
time. Because we want to spend our time in ways that matter.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
It's easy to spend time in ways that don't matter, but I don't think that's what we ever intend to do. Maybe sometimes we need some time off, and I need a break, I need to unplug for a minute or something like that, but
yeah, for me, Shane and I have had this conversation. He's asked me a few times, like over the last couple weeks, like like title wise, is there anything we wanted to do? Are we keeping this theme kind of thing? And we've had conversation. I've thought about it. I thought about it yesterday. I said, you know what? I'm working on this. So there's a link in these notes down below to just like a coming soon page. You can click on that. It'll take you to our website, and then just a few resources about First and Second Timothy. And I said yesterday, I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to, I want to post this page, and I'd like for the I would just for like that series graphic to be up there. So I told him what I thought it was going to be, and then this morning, just when I was even typing out these notes for this video, I'm like, why don't we just call it Letters to a Pastor at the Church? Like, that just makes all the sense in the world. And why couldn't I have thought about that yesterday before I asked Shane to make a graphic? Because now he has to go back and do another one, and I feel badly about that.
So maybe we should ask him if he could do one less thing this week.
Listen to me. His would probably be do chemo.
Probably.
If it was one less thing he could do this week, that would be it.
Or at least have the need for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Be able to eat. One more thing would be able to eat food he wants to eat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like chili.
Well, chili.
On
Yeah.
Sunday night.
Yeah. Chili cook-off. Did not make the notes, I don't think. Chili cook-off this Sunday night. Okay, I'm just going to shut up.
I hope it's Sunday night because I won't be back yet.
Yeah, it is. Chili cook-off is this Sunday night starts at 5. We'll have chili tasting, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll have our annual meeting after that. Our annual meeting is really just, hey, this is what happened in 2019. Here's where we were financially. Here are some things we're thinking about for 2020. We affirm our elders, and that's it. It's not like some big Robert's Rules of Order thing. Have you ever been in one of those kinds of annual meetings?
Mm-hmm. I have. Not lately, thankfully.
Yeah.
I'm not a big like parliamentary order kind of guy. So that kind of stuff. Those kinds of meetings I have a hard time engaging in sometimes.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a meeting where they're talking about finances and they're talking about your salary as if you're not even there? They're talking to you like as a third person entity, and you're just sitting there like.
Yeah, I don't remember getting into any of those that were real awkward, but yeah, I don't remember anything too bad about in those veins.
Yeah, I sat in one when they were talking about my pay, as though I weren't like it was just, and he didn't use my name or anything like that. And I'm just like, hey, I'm right over here.
I'm in the room.
This is really strange. So that's this week. Well, actually, that's not this week. We're not going to do that this week. What we're going to do on Sunday is have chili and have some fun together as a church body, and talk about what God's doing, what He's going to do, or what we think He's going to do, and affirm our elders. So it's pretty simple. This week we talked about God, what it looked like to be made in God's image, and we heard a lot from one of the ministries that's new to us this year. I shouldn't say this year. That's new. That came to us last year, called Embrace Grace, and they specifically minister to people who are in the midst of unplanned pregnancy. So we talked about being made in God's image from Genesis chapter 1. We kind of glanced through the book of Matthew and talked about the kind of people that Jesus interacted with. A few of the instances, how specifically he interacted with people, and then just handed it over to Embrace Grace. So I said that over the last 20 or 30 years or so, that stigma of moms in the midst of unplanned pregnancy has gotten less. Someone asked, we didn't get a Connect card, or we didn't get a card or a call, but someone asked a question of, so how do we deal with choices that people make as a sin, and kind of what's that relationship between, I would say, truth and love. Maybe I'll water down their question a little bit. What's the relationship between truth and love in that situation? So we have someone that's We have someone that's done something wrong. In Christianese, we call that sin. So someone sins, and then we have these consequences of that sin, of those choices. Just how I'm curious, how have you kind of processed that? Like, how do you navigate those two things?
I really like, there's a guy named Vince Antonucci that some of you may have heard of, I don't know. He's a pastor now out in Las Vegas. He planted a church out there, like a couple blocks off the Strip. And he talks about this tension between, we're supposed to hold out truth, and there is truth, there is objective right and wrong that we're supposed to hold out to people. He lives in an environment where what is wrong is often very much accepted, and there's no stigma to a lot of the things that we would call sin that are sin. And we're supposed to hold out that standard of truth, but he said we're also supposed to do that in a way that we're not just dumping, like we're not letting go of love. We're equally supposed to hold out love for those people that are caught in sin. And the way he phrases it, or at least that I've heard him phrase it, he said, we want to lead with love. We hold out both truth and grace, but we lead with love. Before we ever, I guess, offer to confront someone else's sin, we want to hold out love to them. Your statement about unplanned pregnancy or single motherhood being less stigmatized today, I think that's true, but I also think it's not. All right, are we back?
It says live. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. We have no control over some things. That is one of them.
Broadcast interrupted.
Yes. Okay.
That happens.
So Vince Antonucci?
Antonucci.
That's
Yeah.
right. Vince Antonucci.
He's talking about lead with love. And we have both truth and love that we want to share with people. And I just mentioned the stigma that in past generations had been placed on unwed mothers was really strong. I remember even when Luann was pregnant with Emily, she would go to the store and she would get the dirtiest looks. And this is only like 20 years ago. But she would get the dirtiest looks because she looked like she was about 12. Okay, probably not. She looked like she was about 16 or 17. And people made certain judgments about her because here's this young lady who's pregnant, and people make a lot of stupid assumptions. And today, that stigma is decreased, but I would say the converse is not true. While our culture may not openly look down on unwed moms, I mean, we have TV shows like celebrating it. Our culture might not look down on them, but they also don't really do anything to love them. So I think as a church, we can come alongside and say, there's a better way to approach an unwed mother than heaping more guilt on her by smacking her over the face with truth.
Right.
That's not what is needed. There's also a better way than patting her on the head and saying, hey, good luck.
Yeah.
James talked about, show me your faith by your works. And I think that's a way that we share our faith today, is by actively loving people who have sinned. But God has made a way for their sin to not keep them separated from him.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the church, our job is to hold open that door and help them find that door. Because all of us, our sin separates us from God. And if we let it, it will keep us separated from God. So someone who has found themselves so deep in whatever particular sin that they've been caught in, that they don't recognize their need for God anymore, we want to go to them in love and hold out to them the truth. But the way Vince talks about that is always lead with love.
Mm-hmm.
The world's full of people that are, well, that's probably an exaggeration. There are a lot of churches that will hold out a sign and share what they see as truth. They will never make an impact on people because they don't love very well.
Yeah.
We want to be a church that loves very well, and Embrace Grace it's a new ministry that we've started this last year that has been a great example and a great opportunity for our church to reach out and love well. I even like how, just the name of it, it's a good descriptor of how we need to be as people. As the people of God, we're holding on to truth, but we're also holding on to grace so that we can offer that. And the truth is that while my sin might be invisible to you, it is no less damaging to me than anyone else's. And like, we're always really quick to, it's easy to confront someone else's sin. It's a lot more difficult to confront my own sin, and it's more difficult for you to confront your own sin. But confronting my own sin really helps me understand how to love someone else that's stuck in sin. So lead with love.
Yeah, I was just thinking, so I've talked about this a little bit before. Like, one of my favorite shows is Live PD. So Friday nights and Saturday nights, I'll at least watch like 45 minutes of the show at some point. And basically, they just follow different police departments around, and as people get into all sorts of shenanigans, and then they deal with all these things. And like, there are, I would say, every night there's at least one, there's been like a drunk driving accident or drunk driving incident or a car accident, and every single time, I have never seen a police officer or a rescue team go running up to a car that had flipped from someone that they know was drunk and was like, "Oh, sorry, you're drunk, so we're not going to help you."
Right.
It's like there's always this, the first step is always a rescue. The first step is always the safety and security of that person, the safety and security of people around them. And just as I kind of think, like, that's a really good model for us in loving people. Like, I think even the terms, like, I wanted to say, like, dealing with people or dealing with situations. And the thing is people aren't like these hypothetical things and these other than, or these, kind of going back to what I said earlier about being in a meeting talking about someone in a third person. These aren't third person people. These are real life people who have real life needs and real life realities. And as the church, we have the opportunity to come alongside them and show them love and show them mercy and show them grace and point them to Jesus. And there are really good ways to do that, and there are really lousy ways to do that. And we feel like God is calling us to do the really good ways to do that. I was really pleased. I shared this yesterday in our staff meeting. I was really pleased that the word abortion was used only one time. I think as Christians and as the church, when we think about like pro-life issues, that sort of becomes the focal point and the one thing that we're going to talk about. And what I like about what's happening through Embrace Grace is it's not merely focused on that issue. And I think that's the whole point of the Princess Day and the baby shower. Like,
Yeah.
we can be against abortion in a way that still leaves people with not having their needs met. So they can have a baby, and it can be easy for us then, okay, well, we prevented a loss of life.
Yeah.
But then that mom and that baby still have to
No.
go home and deal with the hardships and the realities of their life. So we want to come alongside people in those situations and do more than just be what we would normally think of as pro-life, which is why I like Embrace Grace's slogan of pro-love.
Yeah.
Because it encompasses more in my mind.
Yeah, and I think what Embrace Grace can do is help those young moms begin their new child's life well. And we can help them develop some new patterns in their lives. We can help them have somebody that will walk alongside of them.
Right.
So often these girls feel so alone. And there is no other organization or no other group in existence that should be able to come alongside a person who feels alone and better comfort them and walk with them and give them something to be a part of than the body of Christ.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to be.
Right.
I like how the next stage of that is starting now as
Yeah.
well. This isn't just a one semester, let us help you have your baby and celebrate that, but it's let us come alongside of you and let's walk together as you begin this new stage of life, this new life of being a mom.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How do you do that? Because there's, in the best of circumstances, that's difficult. Everything changes. I remember putting our oldest daughter in her car seat at the hospital and driving away and thinking, who trusted us with this person? This is a human being.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do now? And we had about a 25-minute drive from the hospital to the house. And the whole time, I'm just thinking thoughts that I had never thought about before, because there's this new package in the back seat that is critically important and of inestimable value to me all of a sudden. And I'm thinking of all the things that I'm now responsible for that I wasn't responsible for before. And it's just like, who thought I could do this?
Yeah.
And I think we all need people to come alongside us and remind us, God thought you could do this. Not by yourself, not alone, but as a part of his family, you could do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the messages that gets through with Embrace Grace is you can do this and we can help.
Yeah.
And we want to, because you are made in the image of God.
Yeah. I love that three of the four women that shared were in that exact same situation of an unplanned pregnancy, and how instrumental that life circumstance was for them in coming into a relationship with Christ.
Yeah, and I think that would be because people from the church came alongside them at that time.
Right.
and didn't just bash them over the head with truth that was true but not necessarily helpful in that circumstance,
Yeah.
but just smothered them with grace and love and invited them into something else where they've discovered deeper truths about who they are than their sin. I think sometimes the temptation that we have is to define each other by our sin and to let that be the truth about us that everybody knows. But the deeper truth is that we are made in the image of God. Our sin scars that up, marks that up, covers that up, however we want to talk about that. We are here so that people can see what God is like. And when our sin covers that up, they don't see what God is like. And so he's made a way through his son and through the sacrifice that he made for his image to be renewed within us so that people can see him.
Yeah.
Because God really, really wants people to see who he is.
And that's why we celebrate Embrace Grace here at WestWay Christian Church. That's why we want to be involved and engaged in ministries like that are building relationships with not hypothetical people but real people in real situations. Because it's real simple for us, for me, to think about people that are in those situations as sort of just this other, and put them in a box and put them in a category. And the four people that spoke on Sunday, the four women that spoke on Sunday, and the two women that are going into Embrace Life, next phase, and the five that are going into Embrace Grace that's starting here in a few weeks. They're all people.
Right.
They're not a category. They're not an other. They're not something that I can't relate to. These are actual real people with real situations, with real needs. And as a church, we get to be a part of their lives and meeting those needs and sharing in relationship with them. And it's awesome. It's really cool to be able to see that happen and be a part of something that truly is making a difference in the lives of people. And maybe we might be tempted to think it's one person or one family or one situation. It's funny. I was thinking about this morning. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, or actually Tuesdays and Fridays, I run on the treadmill. I hate running on the treadmill, but it's a great way to get more miles in. So I was just thinking on the treadmill, like in the 2021 will be 30 years. So in the 29 years that Ann and I have been married, if you look at the picture that we took a few weeks ago when we were in Oklahoma, what started with two people is now 4, 6, 8, 9. Actually, it's 11. So what started with two people is now 11. And when we make these connections and these life changes happen where we think it's just one person and it's not going to make that much of a difference, it makes a tremendous difference generationally. And the reason I was just thinking of that was, so this is not in your show notes, but I've been listening to that Dwell app that I talked about a few weeks ago. Been listening to that Dwell app. And yesterday I started listening to Genesis, and just hearing like how so few people had so many people in such a quick time, and the impact, positive and negative, because right now I'm like in Abraham's life and that's a disaster. But it's just like a few people make a tremendous difference, and WestWay is not a few people. We are many people making a tremendous difference in our community, and it's awesome. So all that, we're going to lead with love when we see a car accident on the side of the road, or when we see the train wreck that is someone's life. And I say that not in judgment, but because my own life was a train wreck, and even today still has markers of being a train wreck. We want to lead with love. We want to lead with rescue, and let God do His work, and just love people.
Yeah, and that loving people doesn't mean leaving them in the state that they're in.
Yeah.
It means getting close enough to them to help them understand the change that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's change that we needed as well and still do.
Mm-hmm.
But too many times we approach that accident and we want to say to the driver, hey, do you know that you were driving too fast?
Right.
Did you realize that you were driving in an unsafe manner?
Right.
Well, they probably do, and they probably don't need you to point that out to them. They probably need you to get them out of the fiery vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways that's our role as the church, is to help people out of those accidents, and then we can build some relationships that will allow us to share truth. Truth is a weighty thing, and sometimes we want to dump truth on people without ever building a relational bridge with them that will sustain that weight. And so the truth falls flat because they don't hear it outside of those bridges. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we hide truth. It doesn't mean that we just keep it in our back pocket for later. And I would say there's always a tension there, but I think we are at a point right now where we're managing that fairly well as a body, learning to lead with love and share truth. Mm-hmm. I would argue that the better we get at leading with love, the more effectively we'll be able to share truth as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 15 more metaphors, so I'm just going to skip
I
right
know.
over them. So, a few things we want to just share. This is in your show notes. This coming Sunday, we're gonna wrap up our January series by talking about generosity, by talking about giving, finances, the conversation that for some reason we feel like we're nervous about, even though the Bible talks about money more than any other topic. Even though we are completely comfortable talking about money in lots of other contexts, we're going to talk this Sunday about giving. A few resources you'll find in the show notes. The Bible Project last year did a 4-part series on talking about the difference between generosity and scarcity. And then they wrapped it up with a Q&A. I love that they do that. They copied us on that, so we'll take credit. But no, it's actually a 5-part series, including the Q&A on generosity. Highly recommend if you have the opportunity to listen to that beforehand. I'm not sure that anything from that is going to make it into the message, but it's just a good way to think about how I think about the things that I have. Because when I live in a generosity mindset versus a scarcity mindset, that affects my entire life.
Yep.
So I would really recommend that you give that a listen. You'll find that link in your notes. And then there's also a link to something on our website that is just a little bit of a look ahead into what we're going to be doing in whatever that series is going to be called. It's probably wrong on that screen. But we're going to be talking about 1st and 2nd Timothy next, starting in February. That's not up in the air. The text itself is going to be 1st and 2nd Timothy. There are a couple resources on there, 2 Bible Project videos, so we talked about that quite a bit. And then there are 2 audio podcasts called from the Bible Recap on 1st and 2nd Timothy. Someone shared with me about that podcast a few weeks ago. It made the resource list, and then I listened to the 1st Timothy Bible Recap podcast. It was in the 9 minutes it took me to get home, and it was fantastic.
I haven't heard that one.
It was really, really, really basic overview, really insightful, and I was not anticipating how good that was going to be. And it was. So
Cool.
we're just sharing those resources so you can get in the headspace of 1st and 2nd Timothy. So last thing, don't forget, Sunday night, chili cook-off, annual meeting. I know we have winter whitewash this weekend for student ministry.
Yeah, I'd say be praying for our students.
Yeah.
We've got a group of 27 that are going to Laramie. We'll leave on Friday and we get back on Sunday afternoon, just in time for chili. But yeah, be praying that we'd be able to hear what God wants us to hear, and we'd be willing to be shaped.
Is that 27 students and adults?
That's students and adults. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So thanks for watching. Sorry this was broken into 2 videos. I have no idea how I'm going to post this online, so it'll probably just be a link. So thanks for watching. Sorry that happened. It's technology.
It happens.
It happens. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.
See ya.